things still at play. Now, and the odds of where he'll end up, well, anybody could guess. The Rockets are the betting favorite to land LeBron, followed by then the Cavs, then the Lakers and Warriors. Chris, where do you think this guy's going to end up?
This is what I do know for certain. LeBron today, he doesn't know. So it really puts us in a dilemma as far as trying to pick where he's going to go. I do know something else. The team that's the number one as far as odds, there's a reason why they're number one. They want LeBron James. They would have traded almost anything to be able to get LeBron James before the trade deadline last week. So LeBron has to make up his mind after this season. I do believe this trade was pivotal, that the percentages of him staying in Cleveland went up because of the overall youth. And he might not like Dan Gilbert, but him being committed to the youth movement and to the extended salaries for next year, increased luxury tax. So in doing that, it's a greater buy-in for Dan Gilbert. So I believe the probability, because he's in Cleveland now, if they win a championship, Nick talks about that all the time. If they win a championship, he believes that he stays because we haven't seen a great player leave after winning a championship. But right now, LeBron doesn't know.
You know who's going to know first? He's going to know first. So we used to work at this other place.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll not mention the place we used to work together.
We try not to.
But I was walking with Scott Van Pelt. We're walking across campus, and CC comes running up. He's like, "Yo, you know where he's going?" We're like, "Who?" We're like, "LeBron." He's like, "He's going to Miami." This is a week before the rest of the world knew. CC knew. So when it happens, you will know.
Chris Carter knew. He got the crystal ball.
He's got. There's some deep throat that texts him that calls him that he will know.
It might be a little Ohio connection.
He is not going.
That makes sense.
Listen to me. He's not going to Houston. Okay,
You sound very confident about that.
I am, not just because they'd have to shed all of the rest of the pieces in order to bring him in, not just because he just got done playing with one of his best friends who was over the hill, and that didn't work out so well, right? He'd be playing with Chris Paul, who does get hurt a lot, is one of his closest friends, but there has to be that fear of, man, I can't play with these old dudes again, especially now after being reinvigorated by playing with these young guys. But more than anything, James Harden is the face of Adidas basketball. LeBron James is the face of Nike basketball. Those are real rivalries.
Now, I have never heard that.
And
Adidas is making a run at Nike. They've already overtaken Jordan Brand as the #2. I don't know anybody buy Adidas ahead of Jordan's, but apparently people do. Okay, and so the idea that he would elevate Adidas and elevate the brand of James Harden, you guys, he is not just a businessman, he's a businessman. And he understands
the words of Jay-Z here
he understands the idea of being a billionaire because of Nike is not helped if James Harden becomes a champion.
All right, we'll move on.
I like that.
Now to Golden State.
I'm about to steal that.
Steve Kerr, I know, right?
On the show.
Decided to let some of his players do the coaching after Monday night.
You think he'll talk about LeBron again?
Man, he a business.
Golden State, y'all are such a trip. Golden State then proceeded to blow out the Suns by over 40 points. Now, some people are calling the move by the coach disrespectful. Kerr responded to that yesterday. Listen.
I've been quickly reminded today of what an insane world we live in and how everything now is just a story and constantly judged and picked apart. And it's the world we live in, so everyone's going to debate it. And whether it's a controversy or not, it has to become one, I guess. We have a veteran team. You turn over the timeout huddles to the players so that they can discuss strategy on their own. I don't think it's like, earth-shattering news.
Okay, Doug, is Steve Kerr right here? Is this just insanity? Are people just taking this way too seriously?
EHE. Everybody hates everything. Okay, just remember that, right? You're like, man, that was great. You look on Twitter, somebody can find fault with it. Yes. He's won 250 games faster than any coach in NBA history. He's a former player, so he's done it. He's a champion, so he's done it as a coach and as a player.
Yes.
Okay, and he played under the two greatest NBA coaches of the modern era, Greg Popovich and Phil Jackson. And of course, he uses some of their philosophical beliefs. If he wants to sit there in Speedos and coach with Vans on as a psychological move to help motivate his team mid-season, God bless him. Who are any of us, let alone pundits, to criticize Steve Kerr? And oh yeah, by the way, it's always been a players' league. It's always been a progressive league. This has happened elsewhere. This is just what happens when we're bored in the middle of the season, and Steve Kerr does something that maybe some people haven't seen before.
Right. Don't they say that this happens in Cleveland all the time with LeBron?
Yes.
Like he's running everything anyway. So I'm with you. because their pursuit of what they're going after, 3 championships in 4 years, you have to do some things that are a little unconventional. Now, you mentioned the Popovich influence on him, the Phil Jackson. He has done a great job of blending those things into what Steve's personality is, because Steve is not Pop, and he's definitely not Phil Jackson. But he's made his mark in coaching by being himself. And we can't think that we know what it's to be like to coach the Golden State Warriors. Oh, it's easy. They got 4 all-stars. Like, anybody can do it. No, anybody couldn't do it. Steve Kerr, we know this. He is a great coach when he has great talent. There's no need for us evaluating any other way. So the organization, they do things a little bit different. How they travel, what they eat, the influence they give the players on a daily basis. So to me, to see him saying that, you know, my team has been in a rut. Yeah, people say, well, they won 2 or 3 games in a row, but they were in a rut the last 30 days. Look at the technical fouls, Durant. Yeah, look at Draymond, getting ready to get suspended.
Combined 24 technical fouls between those two, right?
Yeah, so he's trying to, his goals are long term. So the psyche of this team, it becomes very, very important. And it's hard to keep older guys engaged.
Sure.
We saw them struggle with that in Cleveland. Steve Kerr is trying to get to that before the dog days of January basketball, which they went through the rest of the NBA. So I like Steve Kerr. I like what he's doing. And to do something great, sometimes you have to do some things a little unconventional.
And I think some of it is also that it was against Phoenix. But look, Phoenix has been non-competitive in so many games.
Yeah, whose fault is that? That's not Steve's fault.
It's not. But I actually honestly think he probably would have done it regardless of the opponent. I do think his goals are so much greater. And, you know, like the Lakers, they have an expression that other teams use where they have a get what you want day, right? You come in practice, and if you want to lift, lift. You want to shoot, shoot. If you want to go home, go home. We don't want you here. Get what you want. It is a players' league. It is a long, arduous season, and they have been a little bit grumpy. They have been playing their best basketball. And if Steve Kerr says, "I want to turn it over to the players," then let's see how it works out. It's honestly great leadership,
well,
right?
Well, frankly, I don't even see why this is remotely controversial. I think that the first interest of any coach should be the best interest of your team.
Well, no,
period, point blank, end of story.
I just think it's because it was against Phoenix, and the thought is that he wouldn't have done it against a legitimate NBA team.
I think that's a huge presumption. I think people are going very far with that, because I tend to agree with you, Doug. I don't think he would have really cared who the opponent was if he felt that was in the best interest of Golden State that particular night.
I think Golden State, where they are right now, people love to hate them. And especially once Durant came over from OKC, they have a reason to hate them. So now they see this. There's nothing going on in the NBA. Steve Kerr does this. All these guys are embarrassed. They should be embarrassed picking up their checks. The same thing I told you yesterday, because they could have done something about this. This is one of 4 40-point losses by Phoenix this year.
Because I think that's a good point, actually, that I think there is a target on the back of Golden State. And I think if they were struggling this season and a coach felt like this was an innovative way to turn the ship around, I don't think it would be met with criticism at all.
Well, they haven't necessarily been, you know, they were blown out by Oklahoma City. They have had some, they've had some up and down performances.
But they're still the overwhelming favorite right now to win the title.
I think the part that they're struggling with, and that they're not naming names, is Iguodala and Livingston. Right now, are they over the hill, or are they just disengaged? And is this a way to re-engage them, right?
Okay.
Is this the unifying force? They're not pulling in other directions. I think it's brilliant strategy. I think there are champions in business who turn it over to the employees, and that's the sign of good leadership. And I'll be interested to see how Golden State kind of reacts now that not only do you turn it over to the players, but they actually played great basketball.
I don't know when having people put more skin in the game doesn't work to the advantage of the goal. With that coming up, which offseason moves can turn an entire NFL franchise around?